guys, so I'm here with Johnny by Linka Polacek. I hope I said that right. And this is our air dry cuddle baby. So the very first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be priming this kit. I have washed the kit in my dishwasher already and let it dry all the way. For anyone that does not know, vinyl is oil-based. Acrylic air dry paint is water-based. Water does not stick to oil, so it's really important to add a primer barrier. The primer will stick to the oil-based vinyl, and it'll allow your air dry paint to stick on top of that primer. So it's a really, really important step, especially when you're using air dry. To prime, I'm using Golden Fluid Matte Medium. I'm so sorry about this jar. It's in my garage forever. I don't even know what is on it, but it's a almost full jar, and I didn't want to have to buy a new one if this one was pretty much full. You can use different things to prime. You can use an air dry that specifically is called a primer. You can use an air dry varnish. You can use matte medium. If you're looking on here, you pretty much want something that says it can be used as a clear or translucent ground. And that phrase means you can use it as a primer. Oh, I need to open this off camera. Oh my gosh, that was so hard. I've had to like pry this up. I'm gonna end up having to buy a new bottle if I want to keep using this jar. All right, so fluid matte medium is nice and thin. I'm just gonna pour a little bit in here. I'm sure that's probably more than we need. This one does not have that much texture. I just did kind of, you saw that, I'm sure, 3 little brush scoops in there. This is distilled water. Using distilled water is incredibly important. Tap water has chlorine and chemicals and things that can cause adhesion issues. I'm just going to put about 3 drops in here. It's not an exact science, but I would usually do kind of 1 drop per brush scoop is a good amount. And that's just to make sure that there's no texture. I want a smooth surface. And we're just going to go ahead and paint this on. Whoops, I see a little speck on here. Dust shouldn't be attracting yet. There's nothing on here yet. I want to make sure that I get in the ears well, and I want to work in small sections, and I want to start pouncing it. This does dry pretty quickly. Just kind of pounce around those creases with a brush. I don't paint where I root, so I'm pretty much just priming the areas that I would paint. I'm not gonna prime the whole head. If you're gonna have a baldy or you're painting hair, you know, definitely go ahead and prime everything. And just pouncing that really well, and then we'll take our brush to pounce in the creases. Kind of going back over that area. I just saw a little brush stroke. You want to make sure that you don't have any noticeable brush strokes. And we'll just pounce that area. And I'm just seeing two little specks here. I want to get those off and just pounce again to make sure I didn't leave any really small line from the tweezers. Okay, so that is it. Our head is primed. I'm just going to set this aside and leave it to dry. You don't need to let it cure all the way. I'll probably just leave it for
but you just want to let it sit till it's dry to the touch,
so
maybe about
I get back.
5 to 10 minutes.
So our primer layer is all the way dry. You can tell it has a lot of sheen. That's completely normal. Air dry mediums are definitely shiny. You can fix that at the very end when you use a matte varnish. It's not sticky. I really like golden mediums specifically for that reason. I've tried a million different brands, and I find golden to be the least sticky out of all of them in my experience. Okay, so for veins, I use powders for veins, especially when using air dry. You can definitely use air dry paint for veins, but it's really tricky. It takes a lot of practice to really perfect it because it dries so quickly. Even when using mediums, it can be hard to get them to look natural. I'm using Eborn's Powder Effects Light Veins. I do have a dark veins color, but this color is my favorite one. So this is the one that I personally use the most. You can get these on my website, eborns.com, or you can get them at Truborns, and in the future they will be at other dealers, but May 2025, those are the two places you can get them. So I just take a dry brush, dip it into my powder, and then shake it off. I want to get a cosmetic wedge here. Ideally, you'd be wearing gloves. You do need to be careful about the oils from your hands transferring. I'm used to using heat set now, so I never worry about it, but definitely be mindful about oil transfer from your hands. So we're just gonna go ahead and paint these on just like we would if it was paint. I'm gonna blow the excess off and then just kind of rub them in a little bit more to blend them. I do have vein charts available in the private members Facebook group. If you're a member, go to the Facebook group, and under guides, you'll find the vein reference charts. A little too much on there. If you blow off the excess, like the little bits aren't going to stain immediately. It pretty much just stains where you put pressure. But it's nice not to have too much extra going on. Do some here under the ear. And kind of coming off behind the ear as well. Can I share, you guys, okay, if you're brand new to my channel, this is gonna seem like really odd and not at all relevant. However, if you follow me, You know, I am always complaining about my nails because they always get messed up in like a day. And look at how beautiful my nails look. These nails they're my real nails. Obviously they're short, they're not fake nails, but these are from Ahora, and they are gel, like sticker, like they come in these stretchy stickers that you put on your nail, and then they have a UV lamp that you cure them in. The UV curing takes like 30 seconds, and then they have a shiny top coat that you put on after that. And these are amazing. Like, oh my goodness. These right here are, I think like they're only 3 days old right now. But if they were nail polish, I don't know what I do to nail polish, but they would be so messed up looking already. I got like they have a starter set. They're affordable. They have so many different colors. So I highly, highly recommend these. I went and got a coupon code for you guys. I'm going to put it in the description. But if you want to go to ahora.com, use coupon code eborns, they'll give you 15% off. I like getting you guys discounts like wherever I'm able to. But I feel like I finally solved my nail problem. I'm gonna use these all the time. I already ordered a bunch more colors because originally I just got these ones and these 2 colors because I wanted to try them first before I bought a whole bunch of them. But they're freaking awesome. Maybe some of you use them already. I don't know. If you want your hands to look good in your videos or your real life, like, definitely try them. Let's do, I want this one to be a little bit more subtle, so I'm not going to put more on my brush. I'm just going to use what's left there. Maybe we'll do one more little one right here on the neck. This is not normally the brush that I use. I wanted to try it for a thinner brush. I normally use this one. This is just a hand cut one of these ones. I feel like I like my normal brush a little bit better. Yeah, these work way better. It was worth a try. This one can be just a little bit darker to kind of peek through hair. I haven't done a cuddle baby in so long. I'm excited about doing a cuddle baby. I really love cuddle babies, but I rarely get orders for them, so I don't do them very often. All right, there are veins. I don't know if you can see them on camera, but I can see them to the naked eye. They look dark enough. I can always touch them up later if I want them a little bit darker, but that's a good vein base. See, I have my nails on my mind. All right, so I'm just gonna let these sit for a few minutes. If you use heat set, you can bake it for 9 minutes to force set it, but I'm just gonna leave it for a little bit and then I'll see you guys shortly. Hi, you guys. Okay, so I have a jar of water right here. That's gonna be for rinsing our brushes. It's really important to make sure that you rinse your brushes right away with air dry. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get our water ready. I have just under 4 ounces here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some golden wetting agent to this. Wetting agent, it reduces surface tension of water, but for practical purposes, it helps with beading. So you can just read the directions. This one is 1/4 ounce to 8 ounces of water. I have 4 ounces of water here, so it's going to be 3.75 milliliters, which is going to be 3/4 of a teaspoon. Because I have just under, I'm going to underfill my teaspoon. If you use too much, it can be a bit sticky. So you just want to make sure that you use the right amount or a little bit less than the right amount. Like less is better than too much. So I'll just fill this to about there. Dump that in. This will get foamy if you shake it too much. So you just want to gently incorporate that. This way we don't have to worry about adding anything to our paint mix. It'll be in the water already. I have a couple other mediums that I'm going to be using. I have Satin Glazing liquid and Open Thinner. The Golden Open is a slow drying line that they have. So this thinner is basically like slow dry, but not quite as thick. All right, so I've brought my paints over here. You can hopefully see, I'm going to be using a mix of Golden Fluids, Ultimate Fusion, and then I have a little bit of Reborn Fx that I like. I also brought some pouncing brushes out. I do have more, but I'm just putting these here for right now. These ones are from this set. I'll put the link in the description. I also have some kabuki brushes, but I don't need them right now, so I just don't want to clutter my desk up. Okay, the next thing that we're going to be doing are blue undertones. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab one of my dishes here. I am going to put a little bit of the Open Thinner. It's pretty much the same with most of them, but this medium, you don't want to add more than 25%. So it's literally just a small little drop in your mixture. Golden Fluids are really, really strong. So I'm just going to kind of do a little half drop there. I want to mix this gently but well. And we'll just add a little drop. And then we'll use some of our water mix. And we're just going to add a little bit and mix this until it's about right. And I'm going to test this quickly on a test lim. If you don't have test lims, you should definitely get some. Normally I test on the top of the head. I do not do that with air dry because it starts to dry quickly and I don't want it stuck on there. I'm going to thin this just a little bit more. I can always touch these up after. And maybe a little bit more. Okay. That I'm happy with. You could probably see, even wiping that off really quickly, it's pretty much there. So that is why you want to be careful about testing your colors and stuff. Just clean that brush off, set that over here. And I'm going to get one of my round brushes here. And you need to work really, really quickly with air dry. So we're going to go ahead and go right in the corner of the eye. And I immediately want to pounce that. I'm going to use this brush that's a little bit smaller for this area. We're going to go right over that lash line, blend that. Again, this eye corner, and right over that lash line, blending upward. We'll go just a little bit down in that corner. And I'll use my bigger brush now. We're going to go just right across the top of the nose there. All right, I'm going to thin this down a bit more. And we'll go right along the outside of the nose. Same thing on this side, right along the outside of the nose, and then down to that shading area. Gonna do a bit inside the nostrils. And then a little bit right on the sides here. Oh, a bit right on the shading area of the ears and in those creases. Again, you probably see the difference. When I'm using heat set, I'll do like a big area and then go back and blend it. With air dry, you don't have that luxury. You definitely need to blend like immediately. Let's just do a little bit here in the center of the philtrum and right along that lip line up to the center, that little milk blister there. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and use this mixture for our first depth layer. The first several layers on air dry definitely beads. Even though we do have stuff to help minimize the beading, it just beads until you start building up more layers, even though we have primer. So for the first layers, I am going to be adding the Satin glazing liquid. And I'll just put probably about a quarter of what my mixture there is. And let's just check this color. That is definitely too dark, so we'll add a lot more water. And we'll add a bit more medium. If you add too much water, it can break down your pigment and cause fading. So if you are adding large amounts of water, you always want to make sure that you counteract that with some more medium. And it is still really, really dark. Okay, that is good. All right, I have this new set of sponges since I can't use my others from Desiree Double at A Small World Nursery. She sells our Eborns edition sponges. However, I can't use my other sponges because they have oil products in them. So I'm just going to go ahead. We're going to use this sponge here. We're going to paint some on there. Just going to pounce that off. And we're just going to go ahead and start doing that. So that we go around the outside of the ears there. And we're going to avoid the nose. I'm not going to do yellow undertones because this kit has a lot of yellow. So I don't want to use my blue to neutralize those warm tones on the nose, which would have kind of some yellow undertones there. All right, that's it for our first blue depth layer. I should say, except for our sponge, some people, you can clean these different ways. You can clean them with soap and water and really do them. I'm just going to do some water on the outside here and then pounce really well. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and do capillaries, and I'm just going to add one little drop of glazing liquid. And some golden red here. And a little bit of Ultimate Fusion Black. Tiny little more touch of red. Okay, there we go. And this is the color that I want right over here. I'm going to put one more little thing of glazing liquid over here. I don't want to dilute it too much color wise, but I need it just a little bit thinner for the brush to pick up. And I actually don't have a brand new one of these, which is what I like using for capillaries. So I washed this one in soap and water, and since it's just such a small amount, I'm hoping it'll be fine. Just gonna get this wet a little bit. And draw our little squiggly line here. And that is good for that side. Let's see. This one, I'll do a little bit more across the bottom there. And coming up, just want to pounce the very end of that one. And just go up a little bit more there. All right, there we have our capillaries for the eyes. And let's take a look at the ears here. Sorry, I'm trying to pay attention to my autofocus. Just get a little drop of water on the end of my sponge here to help with blending out the edges there. All right, darken this one up just a touch. All right, there we go. And then we'll go ahead and just do some on the cheeks here. There's our little cheek capillary. And we'll do the same thing on this side. And then with our damp sponge, just fade that out a little bit at the end there. All right, capillaries are done. And I'm just going to thin this color down a little bit and we can save it. All right, there we go. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to do one layer on the lips and then we'll thin that down for another layer. I really like the Reborn FX Berry Blush. It's a really pretty color. So we're going to get some of our Satin Glazing liquid and we'll put about, I guess, 5 drops in there to start. I should add too, if you're using, there's so many different air dry paint systems and a lot of them do come with instructions for, you know, like a lot of them have, I think Ultimate Fusion, well, it depends on the colors, but some of them is like 1 part paint to 20 drops or 40 drops or 100 parts water to 2 drops. So I would look at the instructions of the paint line you're using, but don't be afraid to mix and kind of, you know, see how it looks to you. Like, don't be so rigid about the colors, because sometimes, you know, a good color mix, your vinyl will take that differently, or certain colors will look way darker than others, that type of thing. So just be flexible. All right, so I'm just going to start with a little brush tip there. I want this nice and translucent. That looks really nice. Darn it. I swear air dry is messier. Okay, I'm going to do 5 drops of water. And let's just check this here on our test part. And that looks like a good darkness level to me. I am going to use a smaller brush. We use this little brush here. Just get some of our paint off, get the excess off of there. And we'll just go ahead and brush this on the lips. It should be really transparent. I can see a little bit of color, but I don't want a huge difference. We are going to be building this up. This is just the first layer. We'll do a bit right there in the philtrum. Let me just get a dry sponge there, or I should say a clean one. We'll go ahead and do the same areas that we just did that blue in the ear here. I have very little on my brush, so I don't really need to blend it. But, you know, if you have more on your brush, you need to blend it. Definitely blend where you need to. And we'll go ahead and do just a little bit of this on the eyelid and the eye creases also, and pounce that. And we'll go right around the nose, both sides and inside the nose. I'm a little bit worried that I overdid the blue. We'll see how it comes out. I have been practicing like nonstop with air dry for weeks and weeks because I couldn't remember how to use it. It has been so long, and I had like my blue down pat when I was practicing, and then of course when I do it on camera it's really dark. What can you do though, you know? All right, so let's thin this down a bit more. And we're just going to add a tiny bit more pigment to that, but I just want my mixture a little bit more fluid there. Just grab a little from the lid. All right, there we go. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use this sponge. I want to apologize to Desiree in advance. Off camera, I'm going to mutilate your sponges a little bit. I'm so sorry, Desiree, but I need some more holes in those. So I'm going to just kind of change some of them a little bit. I don't have a good modeling sponge, which I desperately am going to need. So sorry. So we're just going to go ahead and do our depth layer. I need to get this sponge just a little bit damp so that it absorbs the paint just a little bit better. There we go. That is much better. And again, I'm just going to brush some of this water on my sponge to get some of that pigment out and pounce it really well on here. All right, we're going to take this here. We're going to add a little drop of this color is Deep Blue Vein. Just going to kind of put it on the side right there, a really small, it's like, I don't know, a little half drop, I guess. Get this nice, pretty purple here. I'm going to change it, but before I do, I'm going to take a little bit on my brush here, and we're just going to do right above on the lower lip line, and right on the inside of the nose, the outside of the nostrils, and right down the philtrum. Again, I have very little on my brush. If you had more on your brush and you have any excess, definitely blend it or pounce with your sponge. I'm going to go right along the outer lip line here. And we'll also go right in these creases and shading area of the ear. Just pounce off the excess. I'm also going to go around the outside of the ear here and just pounce that with our bigger pouncing brush. All right, it's crazy. The ear is looking great already. One good thing came out of me doing my blue way too dark, I guess. All right, so this just kind of needs to dry to the touch, which is pretty quick with the glazing liquid. Let's go ahead. This is Newborn Lip by Ultimate Fusion. It's a little bit of a not so orange red. Sorry, these are really old. I probably am guessing. Yes, I needed to clean that out. I'll do that off camera with the rest of the bottles so that you guys don't have to watch me do it every time. So I'm just going to start with just one drop in there. And I'm going to do 2 drops. And what was left on the edge there. And then with our golden blue, I'm barely going to touch the edge of that brush there. And I don't know if you guys could see how much that was still. And we're going to get kind of a darker berry purple there. We'll add a bit more of our glazing liquid. I'm going to do 3 drops. And I'm going to start with 5 drops of water. I'm going to go right around the outside of the lips with this, and then we're going to thin it down quite a bit for another depth layer. So we're just going to go right around that outer lip line and gently pounce that and that crease. And let's also just go ahead and go over the eye area with this. Try to warm that blue just a little bit. All right. I'm going to add, I think that might be about a half a teaspoon of water roughly. I think this is good, but let's just look at it on our test part. Perfect. And same sponge that we just used. And we're going to do an all over layer with this one. We'll also do the nose with this one. Gosh, I always forget how quickly air dry disappears from sponges. I feel like with heat set, I can definitely do a lot more surface area. Sponges just soak the water up and the pigment right along with it. All right. That is looking good so far for such a short amount of time, especially. All right, so we've done a couple layers with medium. I'm going to let this sit for about a half an hour right now. Make sure that the mediums are fully dried before I continue. And in the meantime, I just have some saran wrap that I've cut here. I'm just going to go ahead and cover these up for now so that they don't start to dry out. Your paint pigment, like even if you have water in it, your paint pigment can start to dry and get a little bit flaky. So it's something that you want to be mindful of. Ideally, I should have covered this one right when I was done using it, but honestly, I forgot about it. All right, there we go. All right, so those layers are dry to the touch. I did go ahead and put some more holes in our sponges. I would just want to say too, this was like just some extra sponges Desiree had that she just like put some holes in really quick. It's not like an indication of what her real pattern sponges look like, but I just added some more so that they look a little bit more like the regular sponge sets that I use from her, and I'm happy with those. All right, so this is the color that we had left over from doing capillaries, and I'm just going to go ahead and use it like this really quickly for a crease layer. And we'll also do the inside of the ear shading right around the outside of the ear there. Go ahead and do these creases. Filter them in the nose and right around the outside of the nostrils there. And we'll go ahead and do a layer of it on the lips, going from the crease up. Johnny does not have a bottom lip. It's sucked into his mouth. So I'm just going to go kind of right around the crease there. All right. We're going to add a little bit more water to that. You guys can see kind of how transparent this is. It's really, really transparent. And I'm going to go ahead and do what I call a wattle layer, which is basically just pouncing color on with a torn cosmetic wedge. I want to get kind of this good all over layer because that is what's going to help beading stop later on. So let's just kind of start building those up, and then we can get back into doing depth and model layers. Do you want to go ahead and we'll do this crease here. And it's going to leave this nice little pinprint pattern that's really subtle, but it'll look good when there's others built up on top of it. All right. All right, we're just going to let this air dry to the touch for maybe about 5 minutes, and let's start mixing up our next color here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use this newborn lip again. I'm going to put probably 2 drops in there and just clean off the top. We'll go ahead and get our black. I don't want a full drop. I'm just going to put a little bit on the side up here, and I'll be able to grab from there. Get just a little bit of that black. And just a tiny, tiny touch more. And I think that is good. Just going to take this and get rid of that black. We'll put a little bit more of the glazing medium in here. It is going to look like it's going to turn it kind of a pastel color because it's white. When it cures and dries, that pastel color will go away. It'll be a little bit more vibrant. But I'm not going to lie, it definitely makes mixing colors harder because you can't tell to your eye when you're mixing what a color is going to look like. With a lot of practice you do, because you know what it looks like here, and then you'll know what it looks like when it's dried. But it's hard at first. And it's hard for me after not using air dry regularly for so long, where I've kind of I've forgotten, honestly, what it's going to look like. All right, I think this is about good. We'll just do a little tiny bit more water, and that mixture should be good. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do our first model layer here. Everything is dry, and I'm going to use this sponge. I'm going to get it just a little bit damp first so that it doesn't soak my paint up as bad. And I'm going to use my cosmetic wedge here, kind of show you over here. Oh, but I don't need it. Never mind. I was going to show you, well, it beaded up a little bit here. Okay, if it beads up at all when you're doing a pattern, you can just take a clean, dry wedge. Don't wipe. Just press down and lift up, and that will leave a lot of your pattern. Modeling was definitely the hardest thing for me to do with the air dry. It was just hard for me to ever get like a really clear, defined pattern. But, you know, people can do it. You find like the perfect mixture, the perfect sponges, but it's challenging. If you're having a hard time with it, you're not alone. Go ahead and go right on the eyelids. We're going to do the nose, but I am going to just blend that nose a little bit. Go ahead and do a little bit on the lips, under the chin. I'm going to get most of my paint off and just hit that crease. And right around the earlobes here. All right, there we go. Let me just wash my brush and clean my sponge here. I think this is going to be the last thing we do in part one, because I think I'm almost at about an hour. I feel like I'm getting back into the swing of it a little bit. So hopefully this was the worst video and the rest will be a lot better. All right, you guys, I will see you in the next one.